Long ago, in a peaceful village surrounded by green forests and flowing rivers, there lived a poor woodcutter named Hassan. Every morning before sunrise, Hassan carried his old iron axe into the forest to cut wood. He worked very hard every day, but even then he earned only enough money to feed his family. Although Hassan was poor, he was famous in the village for something very special. He was honest. He never lied, cheated, or stole from anyone. The villagers trusted him because they knew Hassan always spoke the truth. One bright morning, Hassan walked deep into the forest as usual. Birds sang sweetly in the trees while the cool wind rustled the leaves around him. Soon, he reached a large tree beside a deep river and began chopping wood. Decay. Hassan lifted his axe high and struck the tree with all his strength. But suddenly, his hand slipped. Splash! Oh no! Hassan cried. His old iron axe had fallen into the deep river. Hassan quickly ran to the riverbank and looked into the water, but the river was dark and deep. He could not see the axe anywhere. The poor woodcutter sat beside the river sadly. Without his axe, he could not work. Without work, he could not earn money. And without money, he could not feed his family. Tears filled Hassan's eyes as he whispered softly, "What will I do now?" Suddenly, something magical happened. The river water began to glow with a beautiful golden light. Tiny sparkling lights floated above the water as the river slowly started swirling. Then from the shining river, a beautiful fairy appeared. She wore a sparkling silver dress, and her gentle smile filled the forest with warmth. "Why are you crying, honest woodcutter?" the fairy asked kindly. Hassan stood respectfully and bowed. "My axe fell into the river," he explained sadly. "It was my only tool for work." The fairy smiled gently. "Do not worry," she said. "I will help you." The fairy disappeared beneath the water. A few moments later, she rose again holding a magnificent golden axe covered in shining jewels. The golden axe sparkled brightly under the sunlight. "Is this your axe?" the fairy asked. Hassan stared at the beautiful golden axe in amazement. For a moment, he imagined becoming rich if he said yes. But Hassan was an honest man. So he shook his head. "No, fairy," he replied politely. "That is not my axe." The fairy smiled softly and disappeared underwater again. This time, she returned holding a shining silver axe. "Perhaps this one belongs to you?" she asked. Again Hassan answered honestly. "No, fairy. That is not mine either." The fairy looked very pleased. She disappeared into the river one last time. Finally, she returned holding Hassan's old iron axe. The moment Hassan saw it, his face filled with happiness. "That is my axe," Hassan exclaimed joyfully. "Thank you so much." The fairy smiled warmly. "Hassan," she said kindly, "because you chose honesty instead of greed, I will reward you." Then she handed Hassan all 3 axes. The iron axe, the silver axe, and the golden axe. Hassan could hardly believe his eyes. "Thank you, kind fairy," he said gratefully. Hassan returned home happily and told his family everything that had happened. Soon, the entire village heard the story of the honest woodcutter and his magical reward. But among the villagers lived another woodcutter named Karim. Unlike Hassan, Karim was greedy and selfish. When he heard about the golden axe, jealousy filled his heart. If Hassan became rich, Karim thought, then I can become rich too. The next morning, Karim went to the same river carrying his axe. Pretending to cut wood, he suddenly threw his axe into the river himself. Splash! Then he sat beside the river and began crying loudly. "Oh no! My poor axe!" Soon, the magical fairy appeared again. "Why are you crying?" she asked. "My axe fell into the river," Karim lied dramatically. The fairy disappeared underwater and returned holding the beautiful golden axe. "Is this your axe?" she asked. Karim's eyes sparkled greedily. That is mine," he shouted quickly. But suddenly, the fairy's gentle smile disappeared. "You are lying," she said firmly. "This golden axe does not belong to you." And instantly, the fairy vanished into the river, taking the golden axe with her. Karim waited and waited, but the fairy never returned. Not only did Kareem lose the golden axe, he also lost his own real axe forever. Ashamed and empty-handed, Kareem walked back to the village. From that day on, everyone remembered the important lesson of the two woodcutters. Sparkle's honesty brings rewards, but greed brings loss.